Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are. Today, I'm taking a little bit of a different approach and I'm sharing with you one of the main ways I'm changing myself right now, and that's through reading. One of the books I'm reading that I'm going to share with you today is 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, major bestseller. Now, I'm not going to give you a whole synopsis. I just want to give you 3 points from the first 100 pages. Reading is so important because it gives us the chance to take in new information that's not subjecting us to limbic resonance. Here's what I mean. Elon Musk talks about limbic resonance, which is where content we watch is designed to make our limbic system as reactive as possible so that we stay scrolling. Advertising budgets in companies all across the US are the highest department budgets there are within these companies. I worked in advertising, okay? I worked at one of the best advertising agencies in the world. Not for very long, but for enough time to learn a little bit. Now, I had been in production before that. I'd been in video production, working in Los Angeles, doing all kinds of different things relating to TV shows, films, and commercials. I love it. I adore that industry. But one of the things I learned is it's the highest budgeted department in most companies. Okay, so what does that mean? That means most companies' vested interest is in advertising. And what is it designed to do? Create a reaction. Good advertising creates a reaction. It tells a story, but it plants a seed. It opens a loop, a story loop, that you, as the viewer, you're engineered to want to close. How do you close it? By buying the product or by converting, whatever their designed call to action is. So the 3 things I've been learning from this book tie directly into this. The reason this is so important is because the sooner we gain control of what's coming in, the sooner we can make a conscious choice about what we're doing and what's coming out. But if we're just opening up our mind, our mouth, our eyes, and just consuming content all day, whether it's YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, if we're doom scrolling, we're actually programming our mind. It's not like our mind is vacant. We are telling our brain, hey, this matters, this is important, watch, watch, watch. And we're getting that experience. The sensory input created by video does teach our brain that we're having that experience. This is one of the reasons that corn is so damaging for men. I don't know how damaging it is for women, but I know that for men, it can create a false sense of reality, not necessarily because of what's happening, but because your brain is basically thinking that you're actually experiencing that, while in fact you're not. And so then you do get with a real partner, and it's not the same. It's not the same because that's a whole nother topic. We'll talk about that another time, because when you're stimulating yourself, it's a very different experience than allowing somebody else to discover you, explore your own desires, and vice versa. So the 3 things I want to share with you today, directly from the book, are starting with this. Number 1, sow a thought, reap an action. This is from the book, and the point he's making here is we can create our habits, we can change our habit. One of the ways he describes it is this, I'll just read it out to you. Sow a thought, reap an action. Sow an action, reap a habit. Sow a habit, reap a character. Sow a character, reap a destiny. Now I love this because it really starts to show us the sequence of events from our thoughts to our destiny, and they are related, right? But we can't quite go from, oh, I just thought this, so this is my destiny. There's a path along the way. The thought creates the action becomes a habit, the habit becomes a character, and then that character is what becomes the destiny. So we need to think about our thoughts, because the sooner we gain control over what we're thinking, the sooner we can change our outer environment. This is really difficult if you're coupling yourself with either a partner or a business or a person who you're sharing energy with, and they don't believe in you. They don't believe that you have value. They don't believe that you have intrinsic worth. They're going to continually undermine what you're doing, thinking, and saying. So if that's the case and you can't change the dynamic of y'all's connection, begin to reserve a part of yourself for just you so that you can maintain autonomy within these thoughts and you can change yourself, and that way you're going to change your outer world. Sowing an action, reaping a habit. There's another book, Atomic Habits. I haven't finished it, but one of the comments he makes is that you don't need to become a professional at a habit on day 1. In fact, that's never going to work. If you have a habit you want to establish or a habit you want to break or change, number 1, you can't just remove a habit, you have to change it. We're already entrenched in these habits, these behaviors, these subconscious rhythms. So in order to change it, we actually need to replace it with something else. This has been proven for people who quit smoking, who quit drinking. They all have something they do instead. They don't just, I just don't drink anymore, it's all good. It's like, no, I actually got into doing puzzles. I got into going for walks. I got into reading, whatever it is. So the habits we choose are ultimately gonna help create the character that we are. To bring it back to advertising, to bring it back to what we consume, what our thoughts are, those videos, all advertising videos, all organic social media is designed to get our brain into a state where we're experiencing that video through sensory input, but we need and want more. Limbic resonance is about getting our brain as active in that prefrontal cortex so that we want to experience it more. That's why doom scrolling even is a thing, okay? So just think about your thoughts. If you can change your thoughts, you can change your life. Our thoughts are creating much of our experience. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that your thoughts are creating all of your experience, because part of the reason that's a problem is some people truly are victimized completely against their own will. They didn't have any desire or thought about it. They were a child and became victimized, okay? Or whatever, they were under somebody else's will. But even in those scenarios, I think of, and this is referenced in the book, Viktor Frankl, who was in the Holocaust and most of his family died. He made a concerted effort to change his thought process, to maintain how he was going to react to the environment. And not only did he survive and get out, he became elevated. He became friends with guards. He became friends with all kinds of people because he was looking at the bigger picture of destiny of his life. And his thought was, they can take everything from me, but they cannot take how I react to this. Just like Gandhi said, they can take everything except my self-respect, because you're the one who maintains that. And so when you let your mind be weak, be controlled, be manipulated by somebody else, you're giving away what's most valuable, and that's your ability to respond to your environment based on your own thoughts and feelings. Number two, the thing I learned from this book just yesterday really blew my mind, because he talks about maturity being on a continuum. And if maturity is on a continuum, at the very beginning we have dependence. We're dependent because we're a baby. We're born as a baby, we need food to be given to us, we need care to be given to us. But eventually as we become older, we become a teenager and then an adult, we become independent. We don't need another person to give us the food or give us the clothing or hold us, give us the care. But the problem is this: we have glorified being independent as the pinnacle of maturity, the pinnacle of development. But if you look at nature and if you look at humanity, and he makes this argument in the book, it's actually interdependence that is the most valuable, because human nature and life and nature outside of humans relies on interdependence. Everything is connected. The weather is connected to the trees. The wind is connected to the trees. The trees are connected to our breath. There's a huge level of interdependence in every system you look at. So if that's true, wouldn't it make sense that the highest form of human relationships aren't just individual beings that are siloed out doing their own thing? There's actually a level of interdependence. I rely on you for some needs to get met. You rely on me for some needs to get met. And the degree to which you do that, of course, is up to your own ideation, up to your own goals. It's up to your own way you want to live. And there we have all kinds of different ranges of marriage to never getting married to whatever. But the point is, without interdependence on another person, you're not going to be able to gain the highest experience of this life. So interdependence is the pinnacle, but you can only get there if you become independent. Ironically, this is something I had to learn the hard way. I have been, just to be honest with you guys, to be transparent with you, I've been codependent a lot of my life. And I don't blame anybody else for that. I made choices through every stage of my life to respond to my environment in a way that would push myself down in the hopes of gaining love and affirmation from the outside environment. Over time, over a couple decades, well, maybe 3 decades here, I've learned that that never works. That doesn't work. I have to find within myself a source and a wellspring of love, of personal validation, of personal affirmation, where I can look in the mirror and actually be proud. I can look in the mirror and say, hey, I love you. I forgive you for everything you've ever done. I forgive you for everything that, I release you from everything that's ever been done to you, for just all of the stuff that you can do with self-talk and mirror talk and being able to have positive affirmations about yourself. Those things really do work, because if you begin to say something to yourself, especially in the mirror, making eye contact with yourself, it's just like programming yourself with your phone. Your spirit may be like, this is dumb, I don't really believe this is never gonna work. But your body doesn't know any differently. Your brain doesn't know any differently. Your brain's like, okay, this is what's true. Okay, cool. Well, if that's true, we need to bring that into reality, because he said he loves himself. Therefore, he's not going to be so hard on himself. You see where I'm going with that? So that's number 2. Interdependence is at the top. Independence is in the middle, and dependence is at the bottom of the maturity continuum. Lastly, and I want to keep this brief for you guys. I know it's already a little bit longer, but the last thing I want to share with you is this quote from Thomas Paine that's also in the book. That which we obtain too easily, we esteem too lightly. It is dearness only which gives everything its value. I love that, because that which we obtain too easily, we esteem too lightly. It is dearness only which gives everything its value. When you hold something dear, when you hold on to something as very valuable and you recognize it as such, you will esteem it. You will put it in a place within your mind, within your body, and your life that maintains its value. However, that doesn't happen when we obtain something easily. When something comes to us, here's a good example. In a relationship, if somebody texts you constantly, calls you constantly, wants to come over constantly, wants to be around you constantly, part of that might sound good. Part of that might sound like, oh, that's probably true love. They probably really love you. Maybe, but there's a level of, this goes back to maturity, right? I mean, dependence, interdependence, independence, all that. When you give away your attention for free, when you give away your attention without it being reciprocated, when you give your effort of affection without it being wanted, the other person, the recipient, they psychologically can't value you that much, because you yourself are showing them, hey, I don't really have that much going on for me, so I'm gonna make you the number one priority, and you will become my life. And I know this sounds kind of crazy, but a lot of us guys do this. We've put people on pedestals and made our life about service to them. That would be okay if you didn't have intrinsic worth. But the problem is it begins to chip away at your own worth and value, and resentment towards the person who you're giving your all to begins to fester. So what he says with that as a takeaway is, I am what I am today because of the choices I've made yesterday. And that's a tough pill to swallow for some of us. But if I can get to the point where I say, you know what? I am who I am today because of the choices I made yesterday, not because of the people who were around me, my caretakers, whatever, not because of my environment, how I grew up, the circumstances, whatever. It's my reactions to these things, my responses to these things determine my conclusions, and my conclusions determine my core beliefs. Now that's why I always recommend Louise Hay. That's why I always recommend Abraham Hicks. Whatever it takes for you to revisit some of these childhood memories where you established a core belief based on an experience that you drew a conclusion from, that's the key right there. Because why did we believe we're unlovable? Oh, well, because X, Y, and Z happened when I was age whatever, and that taught me this, X. Well, it's like, did it teach you that, or was that the conclusion you drew? If we can go back into that state, recreate some of these takeaways from these core memories, put them in a new light, then we have the opportunity and the chance to change our core beliefs, to change what's going on inside of us, the inner mechanics that's actually creating the world around us. One of the best ways you can see this is how you feel you often see in other people. If you're having a great day, you're more likely to smile at people on the street. You're more likely to grab a door for somebody. You're more likely to wave, say hello, let somebody pass in front of you. And guess what? That is a virtuous cycle that just creates more of the same. If you're having a bad day, you're less likely to do all of those things. And that also creates a reciprocity. People notice that you're in a bad mood and they want to stay away from you. So the sooner we can go within and revisit what our core beliefs are, the sooner we can transcend whatever those limitations have been. Okay? I'll share an update soon when I get further in the book. Shout out to Ty, who's letting me borrow this book. He's a friend of mine. We have this little book exchange going on. And let me know what your thoughts are. Drop a comment, drop a like. And if you like this format, this style, this concept of us kind of talking through my learnings from a book, let me know. And if you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.